on the Reynard of pole position man Steve Kempton. In his first ever pole position in Formula 3 racing, and therefore with an enormous amount of pressure on him. The man who has announced, to some surprise, that he is moving up to Formula 3000 next year with a reformed Spirit team. Second on the grid, one of the hardest triers of them all, Perry McCarthy, his right arm swathed in bandages after a motorcycle accident in Spain recently. But he's very quick, very determined and very anxious to win his first ever Formula 3 race. This is a practically unique sight in British Formula 3 racing, an Italian Dallara car, and it's driven by the top man in German Formula 3 racing, Bernd Schneider, third on the grid and a real danger to the men in front of him. The British champion of 1987, strongly tipped to be driving in the Benetton Formula 1 team next year. He's won 5 races this year, 5 fastest laps, 7 pole positions. It's Johnny Herbert, but he's not at all happy here because he's suffering from an arm injury. 6 nations are represented in this Formula 3 European Cup at Silverstone, and fourth on the grid from Italy is Alberto Apicella. He's driving an Italian Dallara powered by an Alfa Romeo engine. Now there, number 11 and 9th on the grid is Bertrand Gachot, surprisingly low down. He's had 2 wins in the British Championship. His problem is that for the first time this season, he is using radial tyres and they caught him out badly in practice. The fastest 22 men in practice were inside the lap record, and this is the reason. Tyres. The British Championship has 1 make of control tyre, but the European Cup allows any make. There are 3 makes here today, and the right choice is going to be absolutely critical. The first ever Formula 3 European Cup to be held in Britain at Silverstone and organised by the British Racing Drivers Club, appropriately in their Diamond Jubilee year. Steve Kempton in pole position, and then the lights are green and away goes Kempton, a beautiful start. Steve Kempton leads away into Copse. He cuts across, he's weaving badly, he shouldn't be doing that at this stage of the race, and he'll be very unpopular with the drivers behind him as a result of it. But Steve Kempton goes into Copse corner in his Reynard in the lead from his first ever pole position. And flying along behind him is the Italian Alberto Apicella in the Dallara. Perry McCarthy is well up, the rest of them go through. There are 28 starters in this race. It is 22 laps long, that's 66.5 miles, and they are using different types of tyre, unlike the British Formula, where there is only 1 make. And it's Kempton leading, Apicella second, Bernd Schneider, the German champion, is up into 3rd place and challenging hard. And it's Kempton. Kempton is going to lead at the end of this lap, taking it very wide indeed at Club Corner, building up to the fastest part of the course now, to Abbey Curve at about 135 miles an hour in 5th gear. Then down to the new Woodcote corner under the bridge. First it is this left-hander, now right, and Steve Kempton has a good commanding cushion as he comes through at the end of the first lap with 21 to go. Kempton in the Reynard leading, Apicella second, Schneider is 3rd, Johnny Herbert, the British champion, is 4th, Perry McCarthy is in 5th position. But Kempton's speed is absolutely astounding, and I can now, at this stage of the race, reveal a secret which Steve Kempton let me into just before it began. He is using qualifying tyres. He has decided to take a calculated risk and run the race on soft compound qualifying tyres, having tested in practice yesterday and satisfied himself that in principle the tyres will go the distance. Well, it's a gamble. If it comes off, Kempton is going to be laughing. But behind him it's still Apicella, and Johnny Herbert in 4th place is closing up on the German champion, Bernd Schneider. And here's Club Corner. This is some 130 miles an hour, and Johnny Herbert, despite the pain he is suffering from his right arm, has moved up a place. Johnny Herbert, the British champion in the Reynard with its distinctive red, white and blue livery, is starting his challenge. Perry McCarthy is still there. There is Apicella in second place, the leader, Kempton in the gold car. And there's McCarthy. And over the line, 2 laps, Steve Kempton. And his lead now is just under, a second. Steve Kempton leading, he goes into Copse. There's Herbert third. Schneider is in fourth position. Then behind Schneider, Perry McCarthy is fifth. In sixth position, it's Eugenio Visco, the Italian in the Reynard Alfa Romeo. And the whole point of this race is that even though it is only a one-race championship, it is to decide who is the best driver in Formula 3 from Europe here at Silverstone today. In 1985, the championship was won by Alex Caffey, and last year by Stefano Modena. Kempton, Apicella, Herbert, Schneider, Perry McCarthy. And behind Perry McCarthy, it's Visco. That is Mauro Martini in his Dallara. Round the right-hander at Club Corner, 5,500 RPM, 130 miles an hour. There are still damp patches at Silverstone, and if you stray very much off the racing line in some parts, you could be in trouble. But Kempton is driving a superbly mature race. As I said earlier on, the pressure was really on him starting from his first pole position. He's handling it extremely well. He completes the lap in the lead. Just 0.8 of a second now ahead of Apicella. There he is in second place. Johnny Herbert is making no impression, nor is Schneider, nor is Perry McCarthy, nor is Visco. And there in seventh place, Philippe Favre, the Swiss driver. And Gachot, there is Gachot, there in the background is the white and red car of Bertrand Gachot, number 11, who's fighting very hard, and because he started only in ninth place and a big off there, and somebody trying to go on at Copse, that is really stupid, because he can see in his mirrors it's Ronnie Grant, the 62-year-old London taxi driver. Ronnie Grant has gone off in a big way, as he has done in the past, and he's opted to carry on, presumably in the hope of having a new rear wing fitted. Kempton, Apicella, Herbert, Schneider, Perry McCarthy in fifth place, then there's Visco, Favre, and in eighth position now, off has come Ronnie Grant's rear wing altogether. It's decided to abandon ship, and Ronnie is motoring serenely on to the pits. There goes Kempton. Kempton's lead is still about 0.7 of a second. And the gap between Kempton and Herbert in third position is only 1.3 seconds. There is Johnny Herbert. Perry McCarthy in fifth place, and now in sixth position, Favre up into seventh place has come Bertrand Gachot. Down to eighth position has gone Mauro Martini, and in ninth place it's Thomas Danielsson, the Swede, in the Magic Motorsport Reynard. Well down, because Danielsson started from fifth on the grid. He's lost places. This is the exit from Chapel, down the Hanger Straight at some 140 miles an hour. Those are the first four in the beautifully finished gold-coloured Reynard with its Alfa Romeo engine, which has displaced the VW engine from Formula 3 supremacy in Britain this year. Steve Kempton leads. I remind you that Kempton's calculated gamble was to use qualifying tyres, and it looks as though it was a brilliant one at this stage of the race. But you would expect him to do well on qualifiers on only the sixth lap out of 22. Kempton leads. Apicella second. Herbert is gaining in third. Schneider is fourth. McCarthy is in fifth position. Then there's a gap. Favre is sixth. Gachot is seventh. Fisco is in eighth place. Down to Cox, the leaders. Now watch Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert in third position is gaining on number 33, Alberto Apicella, in the Italian Dallara. Johnny Herbert, who damaged his arm in the Formula 3 race at Spa when he got involved in a contretemps with Bertrand Gachot, went off into the sleepers, jarred his neck, hurt his arm. Now the doctor here at Silverstone this very day has diagnosed Herbert's problem. He's put him on some special medication, which is already making a big improvement. And Johnny Herbert going for the big race, the Formula 3 European Cup, in the red, white and blue car, wants to underline his British Formula 3 success, because he had that Benetton Formula 1 Grand Prix test at Jerez in Spain recently. Didn't do as well as he wanted to, and out of the race, Rolf Kuhn, the Swiss driver. That's a Reynard, and Kuhn is out of the race. Now here is Kempton. And Herbert is really crowding Apicella. Now, the gap between first and third was 1.8 seconds, and it's now down to 1.2 seconds. And dropping back in fourth position now is Schneider in the Dallara. This is the race at the moment, right up at the front. Johnny Herbert is getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the mirrors of number 3, Alberto Apicella's Dallara, and off again has gone Victor Rosso, the Argentine driver. I say again, I mean another one. It's the first time he's been off today. Now look at Herbert. Great little driver is Johnny Herbert. And you're seeing really class Formula 3 driving. Herbert is now in a position to take second place away from Apicella. He's right up in the gearbox of the Italian. He bobs out at the last moment, denies the Italian the line for Stowe, and is through into second place. This race means so much to Herbert. Now Steve Kempton. Herbert is, look at the way Herbert is pulling away from Apicella. Just quickly established that there are 3 makes of tyre in this race. There are Avon tyres, there are Bridgestone tyres, there are Michelin tyres. And whoever has chosen the right make and compound is going to win this race. At the moment it is Steve Kempton. But the gap now, as the lap is completed, and that is the 8th lap, between Kempton and Herbert is down to 1.2 seconds. Steve Kempton from Croydon leads in his Reynard Alfa Romeo. Johnny Herbert, who has got a Reynard with a VW Spiess engine, Spiess the tuning concern, and Apicella is losing his place to Schneider. Schneider in the red and white Dallara has moved from 4th to 3rd. Apicella is down into 4th position, so the Italian has lost 2 places on 1 lap. That could indicate that he's chosen the wrong type of tyre. And now Perry McCarthy, 5th in the background, is starting to close up on the Italian. British drivers 2nd and 5th. Here is Perry McCarthy from Danbury, with an arm that is very sore. Both the British drivers have got very sore right arms for different reasons. Coming up to complete the half-distance lap 11. Now I'm going to watch the pit signals as they go past. They're going into Woodcote now. They approach it at 5th gear. They go through it in 4th. And Herbert is now challenging. Now he is close enough as they exit Woodcote to take the lead from Steve Kempton. There's no need for a stopwatch now. And Johnny Herbert challenges as they come up to Cox Corner, the right-hander in 4th gear. And Kempton that is totally out of order. Kempton was adopting some dubious tactics after the start. He's determined to keep Herbert back. and he's not going to succeed. It's going to take more than that to worry Johnny Herbert. But now, in 4th position, Perry McCarthy has got ahead of Visco, who was in front of him. But look at the excitement of this race now. Watch Kempton. Look at the way he's weaving about from one side of the circuit to the other, and Herbert is magnetically almost attached to his gearbox. Well, I would suspect that there's going to be some sort of a discussion after this race with Kempton. I mean, this is absolutely ludicrous, the way Kempton is moving about the circuit now as he goes into Club Corner. Comes very wide indeed. And of course, if you lose momentum, which is what Herbert is doing, it affects your racing speed and therefore the gap, and it also gives the chance for the people behind to close up. He's just about to complete his 15th lap. That's McCarthy, number 1, 4th position ahead of him, number 40. The gap now between Johnny Herbert in 2nd place, Ben Schneider in 3rd position, 2.12 seconds. And next time we'll see how quickly they are going round the lap in comparison with the lap record on Avon Control tyres held by Thomas Danielson, who at the present moment is in 8th position. 1 minute 31.7 is Danielson's lap record, a speed of 116.5 miles an hour. The top 22 beat that time and speed in qualifying, but as I explained earlier on, that was because they were using different tyres. And there's the first 6. Kempton, Herbert, Schneider, McCarthy, Apicella, and then Philippe Favre. Now they are, Kempton is catching tail-enders, McCarthy is going for Schneider. He came out and had a look. Schneider kept on the racing line. You can see that the circuit now is almost entirely dry. And I believe that Herbert has got some problem, whether it is his arm or his tyres or something else, I know not. All I know is that number 2, Johnny Herbert there, the British champion, seemingly can't do anything about Steve Kempton, who, apart from his weaving tactics earlier on, is driving an immaculate race. And out goes McCarthy. Perry McCarthy, who seems to be dogged with bad luck this year and who was challenging Schneider for 3rd position, bitterly disappointed, out of the European Cup Formula 3 race at Silverstone, and so therefore up into 4th position goes Alberto Apicella. And meantime, Kempton now is up behind the Swiss driver, Christoph Herney, in the unique Suica. He's passed him, as is Herbert. Herney, that was good manners. Herney moved across and let them through. He was watching his mirrors. Kempton now is on lap 17, as is Herbert, as is Schneider. In the background you see Apicella and Favre, who are now 4th and 5th. That means to say that up to 6th position now has come Bertrand Gachot, but that won't be enough as far as he's concerned. Nothing less than victory will do for Bertrand. He's a very hard charger and a very tough campaigner. Kempton. Herbert. Completing lap 18. Completing lap 17, my apologies. Tremendous waving of blue flags now. Favre is through. Favre has taken, and Herbert is in trouble. Look at that. Steam, vapour, smoke, whatever, coming from the rear of Johnny Herbert's Reynard with its VW engine, and he's getting out. He's undoing his safety belts. Has he decided that the car is on fire? Johnny Herbert is taking no chances. He's undone his safety belt so that he can leap out of the car. Needless to say, that's jolly dangerous when you're going at racing speeds, but Herbert has decided his race is run. He holds up his hand. He's going to pull off the circuit, or at best coast on slowly, but he's driven a superb race, and it looks as though it was some kind of engine trouble from the smoke or vapor that was coming from the back of the car from the VW engine. So now it's down to Bernd Schneider as Herbert number 2 touring in, being caught by Bertrand Gachot, who's soon going to move from 6th to 5th place in the red and white car, and as the leader, Steve Kempton, goes through Woodcote and comes up to complete his 18th lap out of 22. And it really does look as though Kempton's got it made now. Because the gap between Kempton and Schneider is 3.2 seconds. As Herbert turns off the circuit disconsolately. Well, he's fought a magnificent battle. You can see that there's some major problem from the smoke drifting out from underneath the engine cover. Johnny Herbert, the British champion of 1987, is not going to win the European Cup and join the distinguished company of Alex Caffey, who won in 85, and Stefano Modena, and nor is he. Now let's see, here comes Kempton down into and out of Woodcote. There is Bernd Schneider. This time we will see what Steve Kempton's lap time is. Schneider looks as though he's closing, but in the 3 laps that are left, including the one that they are on, I don't think he's got a hope of winning unless Kempton has trouble. And the race order on lap 20 out of 22 is Steve Kempton leading in his Reynard Alfa Romeo. There's the second place man, German champion Bernd Schneider in the Italian Dallara with an Audi engine. In third position now, it's Philippe Favre, the Swiss driver, Reynard Alfa Romeo. In fourth place, Alberto Apicella in the Dallara. Fifth is Bertrand Gachot in the Rolt Alfa Romeo, and in sixth place Thomas Danielson in the Reynard Alfa Romeo. Well, Kempton certainly is not letting up. Ran very, very wide out of Club Corner. And as he comes up to Abbey, he's doing not far short of 140 miles an hour. Lap record 1:31.74. Kempton's pole time of 1:29.04 was the speed of 120 miles an hour, and I believe that to be the first ever 120 mile an hour lap in Formula 3 that's been done. Now he's just gone round in 1:30.7, so he's inside, well inside the lap record. Whether that is a lap record remains to be seen, because obviously I haven't been able to take everybody's time. We have the problem now for Johnny Herbert. His engine overheated. You saw that from the steam that was coming out of it. The reason it overheated was because he had got grass in the intake, the air intake for the radiator. Maybe that got into the air intake where he was forced off the circuit. I am quite sure that when Steve Kempton gets out of the car, he will find a fairly irate reception committee headed by Eddie Jordan, who is Johnny Herbert's entrant, and Johnny Herbert himself. Just a polite exchange of words, no doubt. There is Kempton, lap 21. He's only got 1 lap to go at the end of this one. And thank heavens, not only is the sun out, but the course is getting drier by the second. It rained very, very heavily overnight. Earlier today, the course was very wet indeed. But now Steve Kempton starts his 22nd and last lap, having just gone round in 1:30.8. And the interest is behind him because Philippe Favre, there he is catching Bernd Schneider. It's quite possible that Philippe Favre, number 19, the Swiss driver from Geneva in the Reynard Alfa, is going to take Bernd Schneider in second place on the last lap. While Schneider's fighting, Favre's got the inside line, he goes through. So Ben Schneider, in his first major race at Silverstone, has slid down from third position to second, but he's fighting back, and Kempton comes down the hanger straight for the last time, and they bang wheels and off. That is a ridiculous bit of driving by both of them, and in particular Schneider, because he was banging wheels with Favre in his R8 effort to regain second place. Well, we've seen some highly questionable tactics in this race, and that means to say that Apicella has now come up to second place, and Bertrand Gachot is up into third place, as Philippe Favre tries desperately to regain the course with a substantial amount of wheel spin from his slick tyres on the wet grass, and Steve Kempton now cruises serenely into Woodcote on the last lap to win the European Cup of 1987, a magnificent finish to his Formula 3 season before he upgrades himself to Formula 3000 in 1988. Well, what a stimulating finish. Steve Kempton started in pole position. He has led the race from the green light to the checkered flag, not only as a result of an excellent Reynard chassis and an excellent Alfa Romeo engine, but the right choice of tyres and some good driving, although a bit suspect in parts, like the curate's egg. Philippe Favre there, very unhappy man, sitting on the Armco, challenged for second place, took second place. Schneider on the other side of the circuit banged wheels with him. They both went off, and I think that not only are Herbert and Kempton going to be having a pretty vociferous conversation, but Favre and the German Schneider will be having one as well. Steve Kempton, the winner of the 1987 Formula 3 European Cup at Silverstone. In second place in his Dallara, Alberto Apicella, the Italian. In third place, by hanging on when everyone else was spinning off, Bertrand Gachot, the Belgian, in the Ralt Alfa Romeo. In fourth place, Thomas Danielson. Fifth was Mauro Martini, and in sixth position, Frank Biela. Now, let's have a look again as Favre and Schneider come out of chapel together. Favre tries to get into the centre of the circuit. Schneider won't have anything of it. Favre moves to the right. Schneider helps him, pushes him off the course onto the grass. Favre, of course, completely loses control there. He has no grip. And Schneider pirouettes gracefully with about 4 360-degree spins and exits left. But now let's go back to lap 12 when Steve Kempton was leading. Johnny Herbert tried to take him, came out and got right up alongside Kempton on the left, moved across to the right to try and take the racing line. Kempton is still there, but Kempton moves across, and he will say it was in order to be able to get his racing line. Irrespective of what the reasoning was, Johnny Herbert goes almost off onto the grass, tries again to get through on the inside at Copse Corner.